being alive and being queer with other people is what brings me the most joy.
It's so important to create spaces of belonging, spaces where folks feel included.
Hashman, Nune Hollywood Nai Atah. Hi, I'm Mel Frank. I'm a Hollywood Indian. Every time I want to say something, I just keep being overwhelmed by what you all are doing here, what you have done here, you know, how the tribes are helping. This is not common. This is not common at all. If this were happening around, we'd all be much happier. We would be, you know, creating and dancing through life and dragging everybody, all the sourpusses with us. So I'm grateful to the people of this land and nearby lands and the people who come here and everybody who takes part, because it's actually something quite phenomenal. And that's it, the day's over, you can go home. So there are so many places to start. You know, they gave me that honorary doctorate. It was pretty funny. They gave it to me and they said I had to make a speech, and I didn't have one when I got there, so I had to make one up. But when I got there, there being a cathedral, you know, because the missionaries, my other ancestors came down, oppressed us, killed us, now we're extinct, all that stuff. They give me this award and they get up at the podium, start singing in Indian, and I have my eyes closed and I open them and I realize, oh, you're in a cathedral, you know, and then there's all the Stations of the Cross, I think it's called, you know, all around the edges, and so I started singing much louder than I had before. And I realized that they were giving me a doctorate for trying to undo everything they had done. So it's like, One of the best parts for me is they gave me this totally bitchin' velvet hat. It's got 8 corners, you know. I wear it around like, you know, I took it off someone. Anyway, there's so many places to start. Poor Parker, you're going to have to hear these stories 13 times. So, let's start at the beginning. So the beginning, 10, 12 years before I'm born, I'm traveling around the planet, I guess, with a Canadian woman, and we're trying to decide where to live, and what I hear is the language of the stars, and then I get closer to being born, and I choose Southern California for its warm climate and its sandy beaches. I start hearing a different language, and I realize, oh, this is a language that's for me, and it's beautiful. These languages I'm hearing are just beautiful, and I'm going to get to some place where I really hear these. It's going to be a choir of my language. I'm going to, you know, be welcomed, and then there was nobody, because we're extinct. So that seemed like it might be an impediment. But it was all right, you know, because when I was about 3 and a half, I wandered a couple miles away from home because that was childcare in 1953 or 4. So I went over to this big field, it sits below Loyola Marymount University, and I would lay on this field. Now there's tennis courts and condominiums there. But I would lay on this field and people would talk to me. They talked about me, talked around me, sometimes ignored me completely, but it was my favorite place to be because that's the language I heard when I was approaching this place. It turns out that there were 600 of my people buried there, and where I laid were the 400 women. And so it was before I was born, and when I was a baby, and I'd walk around, you know, older going, wow, who are those people talking there? And everyone would go, oh, you're weird, stay home. So I got ostracized from everything that was fun for everyone else because I could see and hear ancestors. So, you know, I didn't think that was unusual. And once my grandfather figured out what was happening, he said, oh, you're an Indian. Because he was an Indian. You know, they're all Indian, but, you know, they didn't want to say that. So I'm growing up totally ostracized, not being able to connect to anything except everything. You know, I'm really connecting to everything. how many times can I enjoy Disneyland? Many times, but you know, it wasn't worth it. My ancestors were worth it. So that didn't quit, and my dreams were rather interesting. I'd wake up every morning. This is really great. I'd wake up every morning and throw up. That's the great part. I'd wake up every morning and throw up, and it turns out that the ravens, my family, were trying to teach me how to fly, and I was the worst person they'd ever. And usually people have stories about, and I was lifted with the eagles and we flew. It's like, no, they were laughing at me the whole time. It was really sad because they'd take me up, let me go, and and then I'd throw up. And so finally I learned how to fly. I thought I was really something. It's like, yes, I can fly. No one has ever flown before. I can do this, And then I realized people were laughing, and I turned my head, and there's ravens, and they called me Worm. Wasn't sure how to take that, but they said, oh, Worm, slowest, it's like 17 years later, slowest person we've ever taught, but once they get it, they get it. So, okay, so I found my place. I had a place. And I also knew what everybody's stuff that people had in their backyards, because we always flew over the same areas. So I've got all this stuff and no place to put it. All this nativeness and no place to put it. Because everybody wants to be, oh, we're Spanish. Yeah, that's why those non-natives treat you so well. So I'm old enough, I think I'm like 6 or 7, and we drive to the market, which is funny because it's 4 blocks away, but we drive to the market. And I started seeing this person. And this person, I think nowadays, would probably carry the label butch. This person was this woman who, whenever she stood around with the men, she stood like this. Whenever she had her cigarettes, because this is a thing back when people smoked all over the place, they rolled their cigarettes up in their sleeves, Hers was the biggest pack of cigarettes. She must have had like, I don't know, a dozen packs in there. She was like... And watches. So all the men had watches. They're bigger than the women's because we're dainty. So her watch was, it was like Flavor Flav. Is that the guy who wears watches? So she had this big watch. That's probably what she had to add her wrist or her arm here because that watch was too heavy. She wore Levi's and penny loafers, but who didn't? And those t-shirts, and her hair was slicked back, and my little Superman curl. She had this totally bitchin' swoop back Vaseline or whatever they did to their hair, right? I was so in love with her. I was so in love with her because my family would say things, and I knew everybody said things. Oh, a he-she. A he-she, that was the term, a he-she. A he-she is actually a natural beat in somebody's language, I think. But, so this natural beat of a human being had the nerve, the audacity, the joy to be herself fully. So my first meeting was of a person who said, this is me. Even though everybody mocked, all the guys she stood around with, they weren't mocking. They were friends. She had a place, she fit. I didn't realize that was another place that I needed to fit. And looking at that person, I found it. And then I didn't know what to do with that because, of course, the family is totally thrilled that you can see things, and you're queer. It's like they tried to exchange, but it was too late. I was already too old. So during all of this, it seems like, as I'm standing here just making a list of these events, of these moments that, I don't know, they all seemed, each one of them was like a mallet to the forehead of who you are. This is who you are. At 3.5, there was one more incident. I was walking with my grandfather. He was my God. He was my hero because when he got all sunned up, out there in the summer, he turned this color that people really don't like. They call it greasy, but he was just beautiful brown. It just glowed in the sunshine. And he's holding my hand, we're walking, and we meet shoes. His shoes meet another adult's shoes, but I'm a baby, so I don't care. I just look at the shoes. And he still got my hand, and all of a sudden I can feel through my grandfather's hand that there's something wrong. So now I look at him, and in my baby brain, I say, oh no, he must have a cold or flu. Because that's all I knew as a baby, cold or flu. And so he finally catches sees me seeing him, and he looks over at me and he gives me the elder wink. You know, it means stop. Just hold on, I will get to you eventually. So I wait, and the shoes walk off. And he comes down to my level. He says, totally in Spanish. He puts his hands on my shoulders, and he says, Mija, he says, this is the way the gringos want us to be. Because when I looked at him and I thought he was sick, his head was down, his feet were kind of shuffling, and he seemed nervous, and and he didn't really look at anything, and this is the way the gringos want us to be. I remember I looked at him, and I kind of pulled back, and I looked him square in the eye, and I said, no. And he looked at me and got a funny look, and then he smiled, took my hand, and from there on, nobody in my presence, nobody's grandfather, nobody's God, nobody's person, nobody's human being in my presence is ever going to be made to feel less than what they are. Yeah. Never. Never. Consequently, this gave me an interesting life, like in high school when I was, one of the geeks and nerds, along with other geeks and nerds, and I was a sports jock, but the other geeks and nerds weren't. Like, balls would come at them and they'd do this. So, I was used to that with my gay brothers. Just catch it. Yeah, just catch the ball. So I'd always have the teams that were always the losers, right? And we'd kick everybody's butt. It's like, we may be losers, but we're not stupid. Anyway. So they come across this queer thing. I was saying this last night, that my family, once they realized that I was pretty damn gay, that they thought that the remedy would be to join the military, which totally amused me. Later on, I did join the military for entirely different reasons. I was a peacenik hippie, just trying to see if the military sucked as much as I thought it would, and it did. So, yeah. Anyway, but I joined actually so that I could serve the state of California because it's my homeland. And see, I have this sense, my ancestors never stopped talking to me. One time in the 60s, is this too convoluted? If somebody's ever lost, just raise a hand and I'll make up something else around it. So somewhere in the 60s, and maybe it was later than that, somebody said, here are magic mushrooms, you should eat these. We have no idea how many to eat. So I went into a desert and I ate enough for 8 people. Yeah. There were a lot of animals that interacted with me that day. One of the things, there was, when you drive through the desert, there's always a big cross on the hill, right? It's the cross on the hill. Show respect for that cross on the hill. So I ran up there and I tore it down, and all the ravens were up there with me. So it's like, yeah, this is right. They all gave me validation. Right on, sister, pull that down. So I did. But, so I've eaten these mushrooms, and after a day of many, many activities, such as pulling down crosses and startling owls, I'm laying in the desert floor going, wow, that was, And all of a sudden, that Twilight TV show door comes, this dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, not without the music, I just like the music. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, and this door comes and it opens up. And instead of E=MC2 and the thing you draw and all the other little stuff, came out my ancestors. And they came down and they were like, rawr, and they were like huge, rawr, and I thought, is this a hallucination? No, it wasn't, They came down with nothing but things for me to do. Just, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do that, and you need to do this. And I'm thinking, I live on the streets, sort of, and I don't know nothing, and I barely graduated from high school, I'm trying to get away, but I'm in the desert laying there, and they're like, shh. And so, I ignored that for as many years as I could. Because how the hell do you get there? You have no people, you have no language, you have nothing. But we have everything. At the same time that they were giving me those instructions, years later I'm traveling, I'm playing the elder who falls asleep on the bus as we're driving through Montana. So my head's against the window, and there's only 4 of us, and so somebody asked one of the other 2 California natives how we met. Instead of saying that, he answers, and he tells a dream he had when he was a certain age, and I was like, whoa, because his dream and the ancestors, I tell people that the ancestors talk to me, but I don't tell them everything they said and did. That's kind of, I feel personal. Well, this kid knew everything. And I learned that the ancestors are not up there individually, like hovering over each and every one of us. There's some plan out there. There's some ancestral plan. And it's up to us to get on board for that plan. You know? We talk about how we're treated out in this dominating society. I mean, I have all that background. I mean, I've been assaulted, and the police came and were taking the report, you know, and they were very sympathetic and taking good notes. I had license plate, I had the description of the guys, I had everything. And then they said, well, where are you at? And I said, I was on this corner. And they said, there's a gay bar across the street there. And I said, well, yes, there is. And they go, flip, and they shut their books and said, we're going to fight real crime. So, you know, and I've been ostracized by people in my family. And there's a whole lot of ugliness that's come my direction just because I'm two-spirit, queer, lesbian, bi, him, her, she, it, whatever I am. There's a lot of people who hate every single one of those things. So there's plenty of opportunity to be abused. There's plenty of it. But what I remember every time there's some abuse is that, well, several years ago, like 10, 15 years ago, I was doing language work all throughout California and then all throughout the United States and then down in Coolangatta, Australia, and Upper Sanity Claus lives, and Plutuktuk with the Inui Nathun, and all the others were talking about that evil, and that's the word they're using as an overall just to, you know, get our attention because it's real. That evil is working against us, and it's up to the good people to keep praying, keep dancing, keep learning your language, keep trying to put together those things you think are irreparable. They are reparable. Is that how you say it? Or repairable? Reparable? Thank you, reparable. I like that. Let's vote on that. Reparable? Yeah. Okay. Show off. All right. Well, I'm a student. That there is no need, there hasn't been for a long time. It was all an illusion. Well, it's not an illusion when they're actually physically killing our peoples, our families, taking our lands. But at this point, this world is just made up. Just realize that this world is just made up. And that the worlds you come from are very solid even to this day. Just because, you know, like as I say, I'm extinct. My tribe, the Tongaton, we're the largest tribe in Southern California. We were on our way to city-state. And now there's 1,500 of us, 2,000 if you take the people who think money's coming in. It's kind of our duty as two-spirit people, or whatever you want to call yourself. I'm just going to use that, and if that's not what you consider yourself, I don't mean you any harm. I come from the 60s where we worked really hard, marched in the streets, no labels, no labels. You know, and I grew up into a different world. But, you know, it's all about being able to be who you are, whether it's no labels or every label in the world, so I totally understand and can appreciate and respect you from that. So where was I? What? Was that the teacher? Irreparable. Thank you very much. It's not easy. I've been in a 44, I called home last night, it's going to be our 45th anniversary, not over, I just forget. I forget everything these days, so thanks for the help. So, irreparable. We have the power. We have the power to repair it all. Nothing has been taken away from us. Okay, some stuff. But the real important, the kernel thing, the very essence of ourselves, creator creation, because some people don't believe in a creator, creator creation, the mandate universally is care for your place. Doesn't mean you're going to save it, but it does mean you're going to try everything you can to care for it. And that includes the plants, the bugs, the people, the whales, the air, all of it. That's a hell of a lot of work. So we can let, we as Two-Spirit, LGBTQ+, whatevers, I don't mean that rudely, you already possess all of the power and all of the traits you need to make a good difference for the people around you and for yourself. that you already have it. You've been brave enough to become so far. We get used to saying, oh no, people hate us. Oh no, people put us down. And we just keep saying it. So once we know they do it, fine. Now we know they do it. Now we don't have to talk about it anymore. Somebody comes up and they're stupid to you. It's like, well, I've seen this before, you know? It's like, couldn't you be a little more entertaining? You know? Couldn't you call me something new? Ooh, I've never heard that before. The only way they can hurt you is if they hit you. And then, here's what I've done, and it works real well. You lay down and act unconscious. Right? Next day in the news, oh no, homos were beat up. You know? Until people like us stand up and say, we're not going to stand for any of this anymore. We're going to do drastic things. Nothing illegal, nothing violent. I am from the 60s. I broke this wrist pretty badly, and that physical therapist is trying to get me to do this. She goes, can you do this? And so I did this. She goes, oh no, your fingers have stuck together. All right. She's not a Hollywood Indian. There have been many obstacles in my way. You know, I've gone to school for forever, but I've only gone to school so I can help our people. I haven't gone to school to get a degree. I happen to have that doctorate, which is pretty fancy pants. It makes some people really mad when I use it, so I use it just in front of them. Yeah, that sharp stick in the eye, that's me. I look around and I see everywhere I go, I see two-spirit people. And I see them struggling to be their authentic selves. You are your authentic self. You can let all of those, that ancient saying, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. They really can't if you don't let them. They really can't if you don't let them. When there's two people talking, there's two pieces of control here. And you might say, but it really hurt my feelings. Well, okay. She never really cussed, but she would say things like, well, if you're going to act like a turd, go in the backyard and lay down. Eloquent, no? What I'm saying is that you have obligations. You weren't born two-spirit just so that we could be flamboyant. I wasn't born two-spirit so I could wear French handmade shoes. I was talking to somebody who was interviewing me, and he was on camera and all, and I was talking about us natives and being impoverished. And then I stopped and I realized, and so I said, well, except for my Italian sunglasses and my French shoes, we are very poor people. Bougie, bougie. When you say you have no support, make the support happen. Make the support happen. I made the first, I helped make the first, but I made the second, third, and I'm about to make the fourth canoe in 300 years by other people. I don't know how to make a canoe. I have no idea where to get no wood. I don't know how to start. So I'm on my fourth. And one of them has gone 5 years on tribal canoe journey out in Washington State. So what if you don't know how to do it? Do it anyway. The only way to learn is to make mistakes. Every artist will tell you that. Command Z if you're on a computer. Sometimes when I'm painting, I'm going, where's that Command Z? You know? So I quit this board I was on. We took it off of my bio here at the front because I'm mad at them. I'm mad at them because they're afraid. They're afraid of everything. They're afraid of, as we say in the 60s, they're afraid of the man. The man comes in many, many, many forms. And the man is to be feared. They can throw us in jail anytime they want. They can cut off our health care anytime they want. But that doesn't matter to create a creation. It won't matter in the whole scheme of things. What matters is, are we following the mandate? Are we being the people we were born to be? You know, because in Indian time, I mean Indian time, Indian, although Indian, you know, people go, oh no, we're named after India. Well, what was it called? It wasn't even called India at the time. It was something entirely different. But Indians, we come with special powers because we understand the power of the land. We understand our place in it. And we're losing that when we replace it with all of our fears of what the man will do to us. So what if you get in trouble? So what? It's not your trouble. So what? Look at everyone hates Leonard Peltier. Everyone has forgotten him. Not really. We think about him all the time. All the time, right? Because, you know, we understand that we have to do what we have to do. And that means that we have to substitute. We don't have to get rid of fear. Like I was saying, this board I just quit. I had to tell them because they're so afraid of everything. I said, I will not, I cannot, I don't want to operate from a place of fear. It does not mean that I am not afraid. I'm afraid all the time. Show me a bug, show me a lizard, and I will eat like nobody's business. You go, oh nice, great butch. Having fear, that's fine. That gives you a lot of strengths. But operating from fear only keeps you weak. If you're really proud of yourself, then I understand saving your life. Like once I was going through Montana along with cowboys were giving me a hard time, so I didn't look up and I kept walking. You know, had I wanted to taunt them, I had probably ended up in a hospital. So you have to pick your moments. But there's no reason for you not to be yourself everywhere you go. There's no reason for you not to use your language. If you only know one word in your language, use the hell out of it. You know, if it's a greeting, greet people with that language. If it's a see you later, because your culture is your strength. Many of our cultures have, you know, been influenced by other religions, and now we're sinners, right? Great. Just great. You know, Mr. Jesus, he didn't say that. He didn't say that at all. I think he went to India where he learned that love is all you need. That's what I think. But anyway, what is their opinion? Who are they to tell you anything about your life? Anything. Anybody tries to make you weak, well, that just shows how dang weak they are. But as two-spirit people, I kind of think of us as ambassadors to the native world. And I like us as strong as we can be. As strong as we can be. And have you explored that? You know, when people are beating you down or you're feeling all alone, are you really all alone? No, you're not really all alone. See? You know. You took all my candies. All right, only two when I gave them to them. Any of this, or is it too much repetition for you? Want me to tell you another story? I can make it up like the time I was locked in the loo for 2 hours? In the basement. It was spooky. I asked where the Egyptian stuff was, and they said, in the basement, so I went to the basement. Yeah. All the movies in there like this. They're all leaning up on walls. No, really, anybody, any questions, sure, or comments?
What is the message that was told to you when the other bus rider?
What was the message with the other native? Yeah, well, I don't, I still, yeah, well, okay, what was the message or the outcome that it's that, you know, sometimes I get wrapped up and I think, ooh, Western science is so fancy. And then I realize, oh, we knew that all along. And the thing is, never lose faith in anything. No matter how little of it we have left or how much of it we have left. Don't lose faith in the faith that you do have. And there's no reason that we can't pray. Like, I mean, the Christians are on it. They stop hurricanes all the time because they weren't praying back in Florida this week. But prayer is actually everything. To whomever, whatever. It doesn't have to be, mainstream thinking of genuflecting, putting our hands together and, talking to somebody who we can't hear. You can hear everything. You can hear everything. All of our language, all of our knowledge, if you look out that window, that is chock full of information. And we've gotten so comfortable, like driving from one place to another, and we miss the middle parts. And that's where the faith is. It's in the things that we are not looking at any longer. And we have to have faith in each other. We have to have faith in each other. And we have to believe the things that we know are true. When we get scared and lost, we stop believing the things we know. We just stop. It's almost easier. Like if somebody breaks my heart, I'll cry for months. No one will love me ever again. And I'm very sincere about it, but come on, somebody is, and I'm not going to like them back, and there it is. Hollywood, it's a big drama. So yeah, it's faith. If this extinct person can find faith, then others with a few more peoples can find more faith. And you can build upon it. And don't build with people you don't like. Don't start there. When that person, you want to give them a 15th chance, don't. Wait till you're fully established and really strong, and then you can care for others. But we have to grow into knowing that if we are proud, I've been marching in gay pride since, Hollywood, everybody marched, there were no barriers, there were cardboard signs, we're queer, I've been marching for forever, and always the word pride. But what I hear quite often is people's fear. It's like you forget those prideful moments. You forget. When we come together at Pride, when we first started marching, that was, like the Dyke March, that was a protest. Pride is a form of protest that we really need to carry with us throughout the year. And we can be refueled by, now we're going to Boston for Pride. You can be refueled all over the world by Pride. But you have to, your obligation, your responsibility, your kuleana is to make that pride be alive. Not just the flag, but you live and breathe it. In your weakest moments, you live and breathe the pride that you carry when you're in those marches wearing your best duds. When you're looking good. Remember how, up on the sidelines you go, oh, you go, girl. Remember those moments. Remember the moments that are sweet. Remember the sweet people that have struggled. Remember your histories like you do your native cultures or whatever culture you come from. I happen to think everyone's indigenous to the planet, but even if you have just a scrid of knowledge of your culture, make it grow. That's your job. Make it grow. You're here to help your peoples. Whether you decided that or not, that's why we're all here. Two-Spirit are extra peeps. We feed people, we bury the dead, we scare the enemy, that kind of stuff. Start scaring the enemy with your strength. People are intimidated and less likely to pick on you if you are displaying strength. I went to the Museum of Science and Industry, really love that place. They have this giant incubator shaped like an egg. And in the middle, they have all the eggs, and this guy had hatched, and he was like fully fluffy, And somebody over here had hatched, and they were like getting there, and by the time they were all fluffy, he was the leader, and they ran over, and every little chick trying to get out, they pecked the heck out of it, so it couldn't get out of its little egg. Well, don't be there in that little egg. Be the fluffy one. Don't go beat up other eggs. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying become the fluffy one and realize that you are protectors of the people. You have the ability to do things that others don't. The dominating society sees it as a weakness. My flamboyant brother was, as we used to say, queer as a $3 bill. And people thought he was weak. And when they picked on him physically, Man, this dude could cha-cha in high heels, right? And you think you're gonna beat him up? I mean, he could handle himself, you know? He was all right. I was surprised. Wow, it's very masculine of you. Because usually I had to go defend him, but he finally showed up. So we've all been through many, many things. Don't discount them. When you go through something bad, don't discount that. Allow yourself to be sad about it. But don't allow that sadness to permeate your being. Be sad that people have to be such idiots, you know, or bigots, or something way smaller. So yeah, it's okay to feel sad that there are people who wish other people harm. I used to watch those Christian TV shows, and it goes, why? I said, well, you should know what your enemy is up to. And I said, you know they want to behead us? People were like, what? Yeah, all these Christians on the broadcast, they want homosexuality to be punishable by beheadment, so make sure you won't do it again. So, we cannot afford to be weak. That's not why we were born to spirit. It's just not. Anyone else want to chat? Come on, man. Yeah. Henry.
I was hoping to hear a little bit more about your time in the military and what the gender dynamics of that environment was.
My time in the military. Yeah, it was pretty interesting, I think. I'm not too sure maybe I don't think mine was the normal. I don't think anything I do is the normal one, which is all right. It keeps it interesting. So I joined the military, and I thought I'm going to help my state of California, my peoples, and I'm going to see if the military is as stupid as I thought it was, and it's going to make my grandmother really proud. So, okay. So now I head over there, and you are only allowed to take certain things, so I gathered those things. One of them was a bra, which I hadn't worn. It was 60s. And so then when I get there, they lost all my luggage, and then I had to go buy a bra that was way too small, so I had to march like this. Not really. Well, sort of really. Here's more like this. Stop it, just stop it. So when I get in there, I realize that I'm one of the older people in there, in the flight of all these 100 women in this flight. And so they then make me some little symbol of authority. And there was quite, first of all, it's just the group dynamics of being thrust in together under immense pressure. So there's no time for real gender stuff. There's just trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Like, they eventually realized that I started helping people so that it ended up somebody else shined my shoes and the black girls all braided my hair, you know, because it was real long. And so they all helped me out because I helped them out with other things. I took the heat for them. The gender thing was interesting in that my squad, I was a squad leader, and when I look back, it's like, how did that happen? My whole squad was queer. Yeah, good squad. So, you know, that pleased me, but all of this is before, you know, I felt bad. I felt very bad because I don't know if it's because I'm autistic or I just don't like lying, but I just don't like lying. And I had to swear that I knew no homosexuals. You know, and here I am, you know, joining. To defend your country, at that point you had to swear. You didn't know, associate with. I was in class one day. You had to sit at attention in class, and some guy walks in, Sergeant Rodriguez, and it's a class on tolerating women, basically. You don't quite use those words, but that's what they mean. And the next class, after lunch, I'm seated at the desk, and the new sergeant walks in, and he's laughing. He says, okay, who calls Sergeant Rodriguez a male chauvinist pig? So I raised my hand, and I said, sir, I did not say pig. Because I didn't, you know. He told 3 of the most sexist jokes. You can't talk to women without having that door open. I was assaulted sexually, and that's a whole other thing coming right around here. Just put a pin in that for a minute, and then I'll forget about the pin. Well, we'll just do that. So in service, we had to do that, what's it called, the obstacle course, which is really stupid. They want you to fall on rotten animals and stuff. It's like, really? But anyway, somebody before me had fallen off an obstacle and the pole was all wet. This is a pole that you have to, it's just a big log raised up on two other logs, and you have to put your hands on it, swing your legs over, easy peasy. Well, this chick before me was always, sorry, chick, I'm old. This woman before me was all wet and had made that very slippery, and so the sergeant tells me to run. So I run, and then she yells, halt, so I halt, and I go back. And she tells me to run, so I run, she says, halt, so I'm like, okay, so I go back. She tells me to run, and this time she doesn't say halt, so right when I'm on top of the thing, she yells halt, and I was like, what? So I fly off and injure my back. I don't want to go leave the hospital, because that means I have 6 more weeks of basic training. No, thank you. So I finish the thing, and I get, and then the ambulance comes, and they go, get in. They didn't even help me, so I get in. There's a woman with a compound fracture. She's in there. So they drive us to the hospital, and they go, get out. So I got out, and I helped that woman out, and we're in the waiting room. It's lunchtime. So I'm really in a lot of pain. She's in a hell of a lot of pain. So I look around, and there's like 60 beds in the emergency room, all empty. And so I went to a window and I asked this woman, some officer or something, I said, she's this, I'm that, can we lay down? And she said, no, and I said, but we're in so much pain. And this man comes out of the doorway, and he goes, you are, and he just starts screaming at me. And so I walked over to him and I said, you have no right to yell at me. And then I went around the corner, I was like real mad, and I walked around that corner, and then I got around the corner, I was like, because I'm injured and you're yelling and it's wrong and nobody's helping. And I happen to be crying in front of the door that says, if something bad has happened to you, come to this door. So the guy comes out of there and he goes, what's wrong? And I tell him, and so he immediately gets me and her in the hospital room. The very second that the male nurse is tucking me in, he's tucking underneath my pillow and he's looking at me and he says, my wife is Filipina, what that has to do with anything, I don't know. But my wife is Filipina and she's very sick and we can't have sex, so I've just given you the key to this closet so you and I can have sex. I'm thinking, typical stuff, but here it is, same old on the street, in the service, doesn't matter. Women are just prey. And so the guy who got me the bed, I complained to him about the nurse, and they go, okay, well, we gotta send another guy. The other guy comes, even after I got out of the hospital, he still sent me notes, wanted me to hide in his car so we could go to his house and have sex. All these people who were supposed to help me, And there's like 6 or 8 rapes a week. And so it's just not a safe place. Basic training. I would revamp the whole military. I feel I could do that. Make it useful. We would do things for the people in our communities. But no, for women, it's even the job that I got. This is something you really should give to a pot-smoking hippie lesbian. I have the highest clearance you can have anywhere. Because as an artist, I made the art for the generals, for everybody who was making decisions. So I know every single little thing that was there and coming down the pipe and all. And all they wanted me to do was make coffee. So it's just the same stuff on the outside, just massively amplified and focused in the military. I was AWOL 4 times in the military. Made them, basically, 4 times. They made them want me to stay in the military because I made good decisions. Here's a brilliant decision. If you're ever in the military and you want to show off your brains, the air conditioning went out. This is Texas. The humidity is like 100 and something. It's almost raining. The heat is 115 degrees, and the air conditioning goes off. So I looked at everybody and I thought, oh, we're all suffocating. So I went to a window and I opened it. They need help. And it was interesting to me that every night I really didn't get much sleep because there was a line around my bed. And they'd get in my bed, straight gay, it didn't matter, they just got in, I didn't invite them, but they lay down and they talked to me about their problems back home, their boyfriends, their husbands, their kids, their dogs, their wives. I felt like Charlie Brown's paying nickel. I had made a couple of nickels. I did get in trouble because somebody panicked and they came running up to me on a surprise inspection saying, I have an extra sheet. I said, how the hell do you get an extra sheet anyway? So I said, well, just give it to me, and I put it in my bag. Sure enough, they checked my locker. So now I have an extra sheet in trouble. And then they found out that my paperwork, I had filled it out in a hurry and I wrote, and it was backwards and upside down. So they sent me to a shrink for a while. It's just autistic. Well, how's this going to work? That was anyway. So there's a lot of just weird stuff, inefficiency and waste. And the sergeants tried to make me be afraid of them, but why? They're not my mother. You know. But the military, like people think we don't need the police and we don't need a military. Every single one of our cultures had police in the military. They just don't have to be the a-holes that these are, you know? Anything else? Have we run out of things? No, there's a hand.
So I was wondering if you could talk about kind of like you showed that it's not like space that we have here, this space, it's not always like the base. So how have you navigated when there were harsh or very heavy gender rules in a tribal space and sort of working with that community and being your realist self, how have you navigated that?
How have I navigated some of the tough parts about gender stuff? Yeah, right now I'm throwing fits. Facebook fits. I'm just throwing them everywhere I can. But I can do that because I'm 72 years old. So you gotta find yourself some old people who are willing to throw fits for you. That's really the best ticket. It's quite a tool I never anticipated. I've been going for 25, 30 years to ceremony, not every year where I live, and it's Pomoan lands. And there's a dance area that I have, like I say, I've been attending all ceremonies. Well, last year this kind of Christian Indian dance group decided that, if you have a vagina, you must wear a skirt even if you're not dancing. And so I've been writing, well, what do you do to the rest of us? Are you abandoning the rest of us? Those of us who feel like imposters? Like you're making us feel like we're cross-dressing and we don't want to be cross-dressers? What are you making me do? Where are you making me go? And so I keep hounding on Facebook because that's where they all live. And I keep calling them Christian Indians. But aside from poking at them, because they're never going to change, so I'm just going to keep poking at them, the people who are excluded, we just start talking with each other. And that's what I mean is that we're not alone. If we don't seek some help and some allyship, then we are alone. And it's on us. It's on nobody else. Being Two-Spirit is all about responsibility. You know? If you're really young, make sure you party hardy now, because that responsibility is going to come. And, you know, get the good times out. Not that they're going to end when you're old, they're just much slower. Slower good times. So really, it's faith, responsibility, trusting that your ancestors put you here for a reason. And it isn't to cower in the face of the oppressor. It isn't to cower in the face of anyone who doesn't understand your sacredness. But you have to hold that. You can't let it waver. And it's not all hard work and somber work, not at all. It's joyful, and it's as joyful as you make it. Even the hatred that comes at us. I was talking this morning with my friend Jill Nagel. We were marching in Hollywood Parade. She's Cherokee and I'm California Indian. We're marching together, and all of a sudden we realized that there's a whole group of people, and the organizers put up the stand so that they couldn't get to us, but they all had those signs, you know, God hates fags, burn in hell fags, you know, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. So we run over there, we're like taking pictures with them. You know, we can choose how we feel about things and how we deal with those things. We can choose. And sometimes people think you're a smart aleck and they'll beat you up for that. But I've seen a lot of change. I mean, when I used to go to the bar, you know, the cops would come in and they'd walk up to you, you're just chatting, and they walk up to you and they'd be with this. Like, really? So that, we lived through that. Or they'd come in and they'd go, there's a bomb scare, everybody outside. There was no bomb scare. He just kept us outside for 4 hours. There's the being beat up and chased. There's all of that happens. I'm not saying the bad stuff doesn't happen. Were you just waving? Okay, hi. All right.
No question. As I've been doing this work for about 30 years, all the push-ups seems which is beautiful. But I think that, and there's also, I hear about deep education, and it's also what I mean about responsibility, obligation, making the world a better place. Also, not picking up the colonial tools. Because as soon as you pick up those colonial tools and use them, you've lost. Because two wrongs don't make a right. And I'm hearing that from your message. But can we also have pleasure?
That's what I'm saying.
Can I continue on partying?
Yes, you can.
Or do I just have to go responsibility and obligation?
Yeah, no.
Can I be 60 and still party?
Yes, yes. The wine would disagree with you a little more, but yes, you can still enjoy it. Yes, you can still enjoy it. Yeah, and that's the thing. As soon as you drop what this world is putting in your hands and is trying to make you believe, you are set free. It's a freedom that is pure joy. It's joyful to not be afraid. It's joyful to know that you are strong. It's joyful to know that you are needed. Even if you're a solitary person living on a rock somewhere, you know that Creator made you queer for a reason. Creator creation. And if it's there that you're put, then it's there that you're doing good. But you have to have that faith. But you have to have joy. I work a lot of language programs, and I tell people, if you're not laughing, you're not doing it right. And like I say, those people, God hates bags. Like, really, I thought he said bags. Anyway, running up to them and going, it's funny, but it really makes them so mad, and then it's even funnier. If you're as clever as you think you are, use it. And use it in a way that is, we can be proud of our resistance. We can be proud that our resistance is smart alecky, our resistance is show-offy, our resistance is our languages, our culture, our resistances are all good things. Because even when we poke each other as natives, we know if nobody's making fun of you, nobody likes you. It's the same sort of, remember your cultural parts that you do remember. Or go hang with somebody who does. And we talked about learning your language. Your language is strength. I said it last night. If you don't have your language, nobody's speaking it. We married 7 to 11 villages out, our people. Most people marry out. So if I'm this person and I come over to this village, I'm not going to stop speaking my language. Our kids are going to start speaking that language. Then they're going to go to another language, and they're going to have another village, and they're going to have 3 or 4 languages. So start finding the language that your people would have spoken. Maybe it's not exactly yours, but they would have spoken it. You really need the backbone of your language behind you. That's the strongest tool that we have, because that will open the door to being able to have something to believe in. Hi. Okay.
I watched Will and Harper last night, and Harper talked about when she co-created and what that felt like to her, that a feeling that overcame her. So I'm curious, how long have you been using this? How did you choose your name?
You mean Frank? Okay. Well, I have to use foul language, but this is really rare that in all this time I haven't. Usually when I'm on the radio, I always say penis. It's just the thing. Well, when I moved to Ventura, and I was going to play ball there, college ball, and I fell in with a group of lesbians. It's like, oh no, those women were holding hands. You're kidding me, And then we came out. And so we realized that nobody liked us. Nobody wanted us home for Thanksgiving, you know, but we liked each other. And we could make a turkey. Some of us could. I could eat turkey. You know, I like pie. So we decided, there used to be a comic in the 60s called the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. Right? You know, trucking like a doo-dah man. Or times of pot will get you through times of no money better than times of no money will get you through times of pot, something. They were quite philosophical. One of them was Fat Freddy, and he always had a cat that shit in his shoe. They always went on these adventures in their van, you know. It was very much me. I don't have cats. Probably for that reason. And so we became the Fuck family. Because somebody else chose the name, not me. And so we created this family, and we all had to have names for this family. And so, I used to have really long hair, but when the fog is just right, these hairs right here twist up. This is a dumb reason, but here it is. These hairs twist up. And if you've ever seen The Bride of Frankenstein with Alyssa Manchester, I think that's her name, as you watch her in the movie, her hair goes throughout the movie. It's like, you know, the more he becomes Frankenstein, she becomes Mrs. Frankenstein. It's like, so my partner then called me Frankie. And I don't like the diminutive, so they went and gave me, all right, Frank. So then I never really used it outside of that family, but then my friend, she was hanging my art show, and she said, do people call you L. Frank? And I said, yeah. I didn't tell her which ones, but I come back and my show works by L. Frank. It's like, okay, there it is. So it has to do with smoking marijuana, going to the pornography theater, and having your shoes stick to the floor just to get to your shoe. But we created a family. We created a family. We grew to hate each other in the end. No. We created a family. We were there for each other for those times when the oppression is just too much that day. You create. But yeah, that's where that name came from. It's very prestigious. It's to do with turkeys. Anybody else? Little wave? Nobody? Yes. Oh, you're not the teacher, are you?
No.
Oh. All right, forget it then.
So this is kind of personal and childhood. 9 years ago, I dressed all the time. It went away. Do you still fly?
Yes, I do. I still fly. My takeoffs are much slower now because, you know, my hips hurt now. My sciatica's out, but yeah, I still fly, which when I realized how I took off, that's when, I realized that and then I'm gone. And I didn't for a while when I was doing that perimenopause thing, you know. No, there was no flying. There was no nothing. There was just, rah! I'm hot, don't bother me. Yeah, so there was no dreaming then. Yeah, for those of you who haven't gone through that, you are lucky. Yeah. But yes, I still fly. And the ravens still talk, and I still hear things, and I still see things. And the difference now from when I was a child is there are people like you who believe me. I'm lying to you, but you still believe me. You know, because we quit relating to each other through our dreams and our other actions. We quit relating to each other with magic and about magic. And that's really, you know, scientists look forever to find the secret of life. In Playboy magazine, I only read it for the comics. Really, because I like ball players. It's not it's scary. This cartoon was a huge chalkboard the size of a room, and scientists were trying to figure out the spark of life. And they were mathematical, algebraic, whatever, and then down here in parentheses it says something happens here. You know? But we know when we start remembering, we know what happens here. We know where that magic starts and how it ends and where it goes and what it permeates and what it protects and all of that. We know that. Inside of us, we know that. That's why we can't afford to be weak. We know things. We just have to stand tall in what we know. There's several people who are sleeping. I'm lying, they are. I was looking at you, but your eyes were open. Okay. Anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, what would the Ravens, what would the Ravens tell you or what?
What were the Ravens what?
What would you talk to about with the Ravens?
Well, the Ravens, they weren't as generous as the women who were under the ground. The Ravens more talked about me all the time because I was so slow, so I'm more, that Indian at the back of the room going, what? 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 That's why you see ravens when they're jumping like that. They don't know what's going on. What? The ravens did like education like we used to do education. And that is they watched everything. The more questions you ask, the less Indian you are. Shut up. It's like, really? You have no eyes? But we started training our people to watch from baby. All those baby baskets, that's so babies could be hung at the eye level where people were, so there wasn't this thing about hierarchy and that kind of thing. And we hung them and put them in places where the babies could see that, oh, this belongs to you, don't touch it. This belongs to you, don't touch it. That belongs to you. I'm going to touch it though because I can't help myself. So we always used to train for observation. And that's what we need now in order to be strong. Don't walk into any unnecessary danger. And you have nothing to prove to anyone. But stand strong. And really, that's it. As my Caneste used to be called Wailaki, he's Caneste. He says that either the Yuki or somebody else, the white guys said to the Yuki or somebody else, what do you call those guys? And they said, Wailaki. Apparently it meant enemy or something. But, excuse me, he's Caneste. And he used to say, don't be afeared. Don't be afeared. Don't. Unless you don't believe that you're worthy of pride. And why wouldn't you be? Just because somebody told you? They don't know. You know yourself best. In any form, shape, whatever you come in, it's absolutely correct. Real simple stuff, but we have to remember it. Especially when the police are going, oh, I'm going to go fight real crime. Okay, I'm not real either. But I am real. You're all real. Touch the earth. It was the same in the 60s. Really kind of didn't mean anything. Touch the earth. Really, feel the pulse. Feel the life. Whenever you're afraid or alone. Go to the ocean. Listen to the birds. Do something that is so simple. Because we're not complicated people. We're just part of the earth. With cool haircuts. I'm not sure how we doing. That's it? Everybody gets to go home now? I keep trying to get you to go home. I used to do that when I get talks at universities. Okay, you're free. Well, any other questions, any other comments? Yeah.
How do you relate now to in your 70s, to the mandates that your ancestors gave you in the desert?
I missed the very first part. I got all the rest.
Now that you're in your 70s, how do you relate to the mandates that you were given in the desert?
Thank you. How do I relate to those mandates that when I was in my 19s and 18s and 20s? With bewilderment. I think, I say bewilderment because I am astonished. I keep the faith. I'm astonished that they also keep the faith. And it's not like I hear Christians praying for things. I'm not praying for things. I'm just praying for whatever is to be that I can support. And so I am bewildered that so much has come around. Like last night we talked about Breath of Life. It's a conference that I made. And then, where are you? Parker's mom was talking about what had grown in Eureka country as far as language. And since that was part of the mandate, that language, to be sitting there and hear it, and I hear it in different places when I go, where I go in California and others, is I hear how the people did not stop working. They kept working, and several of them have language. You know, the language is working again in places where it was not working before. And so I'm bewildered by that it's worked. All this laying in the desert, you know, and working hard and fighting the systems and doing all of this work just so that I could hear. I mean, it was so satisfying to hear, again, that people are not only happy with that, but they're making it work. And so I'm a little overwhelmed to be a part of something so huge, even though I was part of that from the beginning. I'm still overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed to be standing in front of you all, because I was just, you know, a little lesbian nobody wanted, lived on the streets, had to run away because they were trying to make me move to Lubbock, Texas, where my stepfather was made honorary chairman of the American Nazi Party. Yeah, so I'm telling you, I've seen a few things that are not very pleasant. So I'm overwhelmed that you're all here. It shows me that you're all just strong. Stronger than you even need to be. Stronger than you think you need to be. You just have to recognize it and hold it. I'm a little bewildered. You know, I was co-MC for the Bates powwow for a long time. And I still am bewildered because that was still part of their plans. The ancestors. And I'm bewildered by the love that I see that our people have for each other and the way everyone wants to protect everyone. And I see all the good things everyone is doing. And while that's not all of them are part of my dream, they still are same direction, same intent. So I'm basically just pretty much overwhelmed. And I keep thinking that, well, just yesterday I was thinking, well, Frank, you're kind of useless now. All the language programs are going, all the people are doing, the queers have got this and these other things, and they're standing up. And then I come and I see all of you, and I start listening to all of your different stories, and I think there's still so much more to do. There's always something more to do. And I think that that's part of the message that they gave me, is I may not have my own people, but I have all of you. So that's a little bewildering and wonderful. Oh, there's a hand. Nope, too late.
May we know more about your tattoos?
My tattoos? What tattoos? Yeah. I saw Bertha Peters. Is that her last name, Bertha's? Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. You're her niece, right? Yeah, okay. I saw her on the cover of a magazine called News from Ada, California. She and another woman had gotten their tattoos, their chin tattoos. And I knew about them, and I had been thinking I should get them, but I don't know anything about them. What if I get them and then some bad Indian juju because, you know, you're not supposed to unless this or what, you know, all this unknown was scaring me and stopping me. And then I saw them on the cover, and I thought, no, this is fine. And as I said that, I got these chin tattoos just to hold hands across time with the women. Because if this is how we look, then I am with you. You know, here I am, I just am apart. Little did I know that the minute I got them, I was responsible before all of a sudden, wham! And anyone who gets their tattoos will tell you that you put your tattoos on your face and your responsibility just amps up. You are carrying something very, very ancient, very prideful, and it means something other than you're wearing a mark. It means a great deal. It tells your community exactly who you are. And so I got these little, well, I think there's only one left on this side. I call them my starter kit. It's full of reference. Anyway, there was our tattoos would run, on my tribe, would run across like this, but I didn't feel up to it, so I got a couple of small lines. I got it from a Chumash biker because I wanted an actual Indian to give me the tattoos, because in my tribe we had 11 types of doctors, one was a tattoo doctor. So I got those, and then my Hawaiian sister, Karen Kuali'i, who's also Apache, she brings over the Hawaiians one day, a Hawaiian tattoo priest named Keone Nunes, and says, we're going up north up here, and they tattooed a whole group of women. And then they just came back about a couple years later, 12 years later, and tattooed the children of those women, and men's tattoos also. So Keone widened my lines, which when my chin lines were thin, people were like, ew, and they pull their children away from me and stuff. The lines got thick, and then they'd come at me. It's like, wow, that's weird. But these tattoos, yeah, it's weird to the outside world. These tattoos are formed, if they were out, I belong to the wildcat people. Since they're straight down, I belong to the coyote people. This up here, oh, and I call it my 21 beat salute. I have, because the raven is my amakua, my family, I have tapped 21 in sets of threes raven beaks up my left side. And this, when they came up to tattoo again up here, one of the times that the Hawaiians came over, they stopped by my house to drag me along. And Keali'i, another Hawaiian tattoo priest, he comes around the corner and he's got this. And I looked at him and I was like, oh. I looked at Keone and he goes, okay. So they got me to come out to Hawaii, and where these young women came the day before, and they hula, and they taught me how to stand like a girl kind of thing, you know, like straight girls in photos are always. So they gave me a very special day, and they taught me how to stand like that. So the next day when they started to tap, the very first tap, I thought, get up and go home, this hurts. And those young women came in, and I thought, oh no, now I have to be a strong older woman. So it takes two men, and they're pulling, stretching, and Keone is tapping, which that'll wake you up in the morning. There's a small piece he has to finish right where the eyelashes are born. But I'm not brave enough yet for that third visit, because those girls should show up so I don't cry. But this is called makapo, and it means in Hawaiian literally blind, but it means one who can see what others cannot. So these are my tribal, and this is gifted. And then he posts on, Keone posts on Facebook and other places, that my photo and then the guy that I saw, but his is all healed, but it's an older photo, and they were identical. The only two known successful eye tappings in the world. I thought, you didn't tell me that. I said, I didn't like that before this. You know? And then he posted another photo, and even though it was a couple years apart, my eye was, my eye was this big, you know, for a week. It was this big, but there was a red tear of blood coming down, and he posted Keali'i's picture with the same thing. Few have cried tears of blood for the ancestors. So, tribal California, Hawaiians have helped me out. I have other ones.
You talk about that you could see and hear things when you were free, and how you and me, you still see and hear, you consider yourself, but can you hear from the other side on the regular?
I do hear from the other side on the regular, but I have no control when it happens or what happens. You know, it's I'm walking along like, whoa. I feel like Wednesday in that TV program. Whoa. You know, and I kind of go somewhere, and then I come back, and then I know something. They always impart, but I call it my fugue states, where I just sort of, I don't black out, but all of a sudden, like I'm on the California Rock Art Foundation board, and it's lunchtime, and they're all white anthropologists, and you know, whatevers, and they all have their opinions, and they don't match any of ours. But I was showing them a painting of mine of a magic rope. Turns out there's a magic rope throughout most of California and Mexico and other places. It imparts knowledge and all kinds of other things. So they showed me a photo of a rock art with it, and I said, yeah, okay. And then they showed me one kind of like the Omega sign or maybe a uterus, you know, and they go, we think this is a snake. And I just do that blackout thing. And they were all very patient. And then when I came around, You know, I knew I just visited, and bam, I downloaded stuff, and I just spit out. I said, well, this, because there are some tribes in California who remember coming from another planet through space and time. I said, this uterus thing here is the spaceship. I said, what is this stuff in the middle? They go, we have no clue, it's just stuff. I said, oh no, if you put that life in a microscope, this is what you're going to see. You know, and then they all looked at me and they said, well, have you read Dr. So-and-so's? And they named 5 or 6 papers. I said, no, I haven't read none of that. You know, but we just know things, and we get downloaded stuff all the time. Not just me. We get downloaded stuff all the time. Just have to be ready for it. And I think I see the hook. Yeah? You like singing feelings. I did that at a conference. It was a conference with really, really rich white people, and they had on more velvet than any Navajo has ever seen in their lives. You know, yards and yards. And it was at a winery with the Modavis and all the big wine things. So they had wine. It's like, I can't drink, but I'll taste this. Okay. So then this man comes up and says, well, we'd like you to speak after Oren Lyons. It's like, who speaks after Oren Lyons? You know, so I went up there and I was all drunk. And I turned around and I saw everybody and it feels a little like karaoke night, doesn't it? Nothing more than feelings. They had no idea how to get that Indian off stage. It was great. I stopped. I didn't say that. As you can see, I do love the torture. I'm the eldest of 8, so, you know, there they are. You've got to torture them. Okay, I think we're basta. Sure, everybody needs a bio break, as I've learned to say. Okay.
Leo Senchamanyavu and Nipple Jasmine Woy Vestivoyetek. Hello, greetings to you all. My name is Jasmine. It's just also an introduction to like you all and also like the spirit realm. I'm Yaki, Moachakta, Hawaiian and Japanese. I'm a clinician at Two Feathers. That's just like my day job, but I really enjoy dillying and dallying and making art. So I'll pass it on. And I'm just a facilitator, but these are our wonderful youth on our panel, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Sue Kim, what's up, people? You guys already know who I am. I'm Andy, and I work with Queer Humboldt, and I'm one of the youth on the youth panel. It's great to see you guys again.
Hi, my name is Nehru Martin. I am a Euro Tribal member and Karuk descent. I am currently a second-year bio major at College of the Redwoods, and I am a senior youth ambassador for Two Feathers. Osio Tohistu Doedo Parker Vassal, Chi Talagi. I'm Parker Vassal. I go by any pronouns. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, but born and raised on Wiyot ancestral territory. I'm a junior assistant trainer with Queer Humboldt, as well as an assistant tribal historic preservation officer with the Wiyot tribe, and also just an artist. I do all kinds of art stuff.
Thank y'all for introducing ourselves. So I'll be looking at my phone just to have the questions in front of me as well. And then I figured we could just kind of go down the line, or if anyone wanted to start first, y'all just let me know and we'll pass the mic to you. But let's begin opening up with just sharing a time where any of y'all experienced just utter joy within your community or as a queer person and being surrounded just with that love.
Okay. So, yeah, you're all right. So besides, right now being surrounded by all you wonderful people, that brings me a lot of wonderful queer joy. I think a lot of the times that bring me the most joy within my identity and my community is times of leisure, just existing with one another, whether it's like walking around or just hanging out, watching movies, just being alive and being queer with other people. It's what brings me the most joy. Because much like Jasmine, I like to dilly-dally and do a lot of nothing. So, doing a lot of nothing with people like me brings me a lot of queer joy.
I grew up in Willow Creek, and I went to school in Hoopa, and I played on the same softball team my whole life, pretty much. And being the only openly queer one on the team was intimidating at first, but they opened up their arms to me with love and support the whole time. And I continued my journey in softball at College of the Redwoods, and also being the only openly queer one on the team there, they did the same thing, and that was really good for me. It made me feel like I was seen. So, did I answer the question? Did I answer the question? There are so many different just small moments throughout my life where I've just experienced queer joy in the community, but something that has been coming up more and more often recently is people coming up to me and asking me questions, like something like, hey, I have this person in my life that's queer, I don't know how to support them, or like, I don't understand these pronouns, could you explain it to me, or like, how is this language changing and what does it mean now? And just seeing that more and more people are feeling comfortable coming to other people in the community to ask questions that might seem like hard to ask, or they might feel shame about it or anything like that. Like seeing that there's like more mutual support and that people feel safe to talk and ask questions like that, it just makes me really happy.
And part of that first question, which I kind of left out, but I think all of y'all touched on a bit, was like maybe sharing a time or sharing when you feel feelings of like belonging in community. What is it that makes you feel belong? Does anyone want to share first? We don't have to go down the line either. I will just pass it down.
I think specific moments that make me feel like I belong is like when I'm in a space of queer people, because there's so much just hate in the world and just side eyes towards us as queer people, and being able to just look to like my left and see another queer person with me makes me feel like I really belong in the space that I occupy, and that I can occupy space because I have people like me who have my back. And I also want to be able to be that for someone else. Youth, adult, elder, I really just want them to feel like they belong. And when they feel like they belong, I feel like I belong. And it's just like, it's an endless loop of feeling supported and, loved. And I think that's what really helps, is just being with other queer people.
I would say, yeah, the being with other queer people, the comfortability that it gives me. I enjoy being able to make jokes and talk about being queer with people who understand and know what it's like. And yeah, that's about all. I think something that makes me feel belonging is like just existing unapologetically as myself brings out the, I don't know, queerness in other people, I guess. Like so many people start to act more like, I don't know, openly themselves around me just because I exist and don't feel like I need to hide any parts of myself. And that goes both like, it's intersectional. It's not just queerness. It's also just, I don't know, any part of identity. But being myself in a space and then seeing other people being themselves is really just, I like that connection.
And then the next question I have for y'all is, are there people or stories or people within your community that have shared with you experiences like of events in their past or stories that they were passed on that allude to Two-Spirit people or name Two-Spirit people?
I feel like I can touch on this one. As a Eureka tribal member, our culture is pretty binary, I would say.
and there isn't much stories about that I know of about being Two-Spirit in the past or any stories, which I hope later, like in the future, there can be a space for where Two-Spirit people can participate in ceremony as how they express their identity. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Kind of touching on what Nehru said, as someone from a tribe that is governmentally extinct, I am of Wailaki and Sinkioan descent. Our language doesn't touch on being Two-Spirit. And part of that is that there's no record of it anymore. Just the endless massacres and genocide that happened when colonial settlers came to our area has wiped away any kind of knowledge that we could have had and any kind of language we could have had to have these discussions. And while, we're still here, there's still a band of us down in Round Valley. Hell, the first Native American woman to go into space was Wailaki from Round Valley. So it's not like we're not here. It's just that because of just the generational murder of our culture makes it to where you kind of feel alone in your Native queerness in a space where a lot of Native queers can be themselves because of the size of their tribe and like the livability of it. And it's hard to find stories where you can find Native queer joy within your own culture because of the years of settler colonialism. And I feel like that's a thing that we should definitely touch on. Thank you for listening. Okay. Sorry.
I think I'm very lucky as an individual to get to hear so many stories from my people. We have a lot of stories around transformation in our culture. Like there's stories of boys turning into stars, or Selu, the first woman, was both woman and corn, or of course Deer Woman, who transformed into a deer and became the protector of people. I actually was going to wear my trans Deer Woman shirt, but my mom didn't want to match with me today. It's a recurring theme in our culture to have stories of transformation in that regard.
Thank you. And then how do you think your identity impacts your culture now? Even just thinking about, I don't know, some of you mentioned not hearing many stories of Two-Spirit people in the past. How do you think that can create a shift, or how do you think your identity contributes to community going further and developing?
I think for me personally, I think that I can be a pillar for a lot of queer natives whose tribes functionally don't exist anymore, whose languages are functionally dead. I think being someone that they can turn to, no matter if they're Wailaki or somewhere from across the country from a smaller tribe, I think being someone who's out and proud of themselves, invisible, can hopefully give them hope and help them feel seen. And I think that's my role to play in all of this as a Two-Spirit person, is just to be there, to be seen as a mentor or just someone in their community that they can, have, like a resource almost.
I think it was mentioned in the previous presentation that the Cherokee Nation has gone leaps and bounds in order to help represent and uplift Two-Spirit and Indigenous queer voices and existences, and they do a lot of amazing work, and I'm so grateful for them. And I think as an individual, also just in our local community, I think being a Two-Spirit person, I sort of try to embody the role of a communicator between people and spaces, because I'm very sparse individual. I've touched bases with so many different places, so many different people. I've done so many different things for so much. And I really enjoy being able to pass on knowledge and pass on just communicate between people, because I think it's a really important thing in our community, especially locally, because if there's no communication, then nothing gets done.
And then this question is kind of, I think, ties into the presentation earlier, looking at the statistics, just the amount of unsafeness a lot of our queer youth face. What resources or wants or requests even, or hopes for the future do you want for the rest of the community to know, and kind of keep hope to keep growing and moving forward?
I think, Maggie, my mom, said earlier, it is important for community members to join school board, to just have people in the community who know, aren't biased of others, within. I don't really know how to explain it, but it made sense in my brain. And also, for smaller communities, they don't have as much resources that they need, and we definitely need to get more queer knowledge out, not just for adults, but also kids who don't know how to identify. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I think I want more people to get involved, volunteer at events, at your local resource center, get involved with the teacher board. I think, and also just standing up in your community, being just loudly accepting and having it be common knowledge that, you are a safe human being to be around. I think that is a step we can take to building a better future, because a lot of kids don't feel like they have somebody. A lot of people don't feel like they have somebody. And the celebration in the data we have is really important. And I think it goes to show that, if you are outwardly projecting hey, I'm a safe person for you, I support you, we can have a lot more kids who feel safe in school, which is one thing that I think we really need, because especially among queer and indigenous students, we have a high rate of absenteeism. And, that doesn't help our situation of, healthy, happy adults who are queer or cishet. So being outwardly accepting is something we can do to remedy that, to take more steps forward. Did you want to say anything?
Something that I think anyone can do to help support the 2S LGBTQ+ community is just exist. Even if it just means waking up in the morning and going to school or going to work or saying hi to your neighbor, just exist in your community and be someone who is there so that people know that they're not alone. Yeah.
That's a really good point. Just existing is one of the best things we can do, because even if it's hard, we have to fight to exist, to take up space as queer people. I think that is one wonderful thing that you said, Parker. Just exist. Oh, you have more to say? No, you're all good.
To add on to that, just existing is proof that the genocide that Native people have faced over years and years and years, it proves that we are not extinct. We are not gone. We're still here. We still matter. We still have voices that can speak. And even if some of us don't have the volume or don't have the courage to speak up. Some of us do, and being there in support of the people that are able to, I don't know, be there. Just existing is a form of resistance against all of that generational trauma, all of the things that still work to oppress us, all of that. Yeah.
Thank you. And then to our last question, and it's also kind of my favorite, sharing your experiences or times when you started exploring your queer and two-spirit identity, or what came up for you, or what questions you had for yourself, or like your thought process even, or maybe just, I don't know. I think of like myself and like the cartoons I was watching when I was little. I wasn't thinking like I wanted to be the girl that was pretty on the cartoon. I was like, oh, that girl's pretty. Like, can they be my girlfriend? I think they're cute. So anything to be like to that level or beyond.
So I didn't really like come out until I think I was like a sophomore in high school, so 4 years ago. And not that I didn't know I was queer, it just, I never like, I don't know, because I look back now and I think about things that's like, oh yeah, I definitely did have an alter ego that was a little boy when I was 12. So like that was, like, I just never thought that, oh, that could mean I'm queer. But yeah, I think I came out at 15, and I didn't really have my first girlfriend until I was 16 years old, 17 maybe, no, 16. And from there, I just kind of learned more about myself, having my first girlfriend. And that was a little harder because I wasn't really able to be openly, be able to love her out loud, which was hard. We kind of had to keep it a secret for a long time. And so I wasn't able to express who I really, really am until the end of my senior year, which was 2 years ago. And I have been a lot happier since I have been able to express my full identity. So I'm grateful for that.
I have sort of always been myself. Like, even when I was like a little kid, I was always like, wearing a dress and crawling around in the mud, picking up bugs and lizards and stuff like that. And I've never really understood fitting into perceived roles. Like, those perceived roles never really clicked in my head, so I never had a chance to follow them. But there were people on the outside being like, oh, you can't write a poem about girls. We don't speak about that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, why not? Like, why can't I write a poem about a girl? It doesn't make sense to me. And it wasn't until high school where somebody asked me what my pronouns were, and I had never thought about that before. And I was like, oh, maybe I don't have to be the default. And then I spent a lot of time like looking for labels on the internet and being like, oh, I'm this and this and that. And then over time, I was like, you know what? I don't think labels really do it for me. And so now I just kind of exist as a self-identified whatever.
Yeah, surreal. Yeah, I feel like the internet definitely helped me kind of find who I was. Because I've always been rather feminine and also just kind of, myself. And as like a younger kid, I got really involved with like the alternative scene. If you can't really tell, the emo phase never left. It wasn't a phase, Mom. And so in the alternative scene, there are a lot of queer people, a lot of trans people, and the more I kind of got into that, I got introduced to like other like subcultures and like fandom and cosplaying. And, that really opened me up to like, oh, I don't have to be like factory settings. I can like do what I want with like my human flesh that I have to have for like a million years before I crumble into dust and become a star. And that allowed me a lot of freedom to explore for a long time I was like super masculine, like I'm the most masculine emo boy that a 5th grader can be. And then it kind of evolved into like, I am super goth and I am like the womanist witch of all time. Boo. And now I'm just like, yeah, genderless worm that's happy in my body, just worming around, you know? And I kind of hope I can be like that for other people, be like, oh, I don't have to be factory settings. And then, yeah, I think that was pretty cool. So I'm pretty glad that I get to be like a cool genderless thing. Yeah.
Chioko Utesea, thank you so much in ways that it can't even be translated fully. But do any of y'all have anything else you want to share before we wrap up that are not a part of the questions, or any thoughts, hopes, concerns, wishes?
Maybe we could.
Thank you. Just to add on to what you mentioned, I think something, especially in the newer generations, that is really important and I never hear talked about is the importance of fandom and like just nerd community and like the expression and exploration of gender and sexuality, because it's like, I don't know, I have never connected more than people that are, you know, share interests with me, and that's how I meet people. That's how I find people in my community, both like locally and online, and like building those connections through shared interests is something that is really important to me as an individual and really important to this generation. And I don't know, I'm glad to hear more people talking about it, because like, I don't know, it's something that I always thought I was alone in for the longest time.
Yeah, that's so real. Oh my God. Yes, just like nerdy spaces filled with queer people makes me so happy. Like 2 out of every 5 Dungeons and Dragons players are totally gay as hell, myself included. Like every person you know that plays a tiefling bard, yeah, they're a little, so yeah, it's just like seeing other queer people be nerdy, especially in like white cishet male dominated spaces. It just brings me so much happiness, and I'm like, yes, yes, go on, my queer little nerdy fledglings. It's just like more of us to enjoy all these really fun things and just to nerd out together. That's another thing that brings me queer joy. Going back to that one question, is just being nerdy. It's so fun.
Give it up for our youth panel. Thank you, Parker, Nehru, and Andy.